club or a golf club is ultimately how do you wind up finding ways to convince the board to fund much needed renovations. This is an area where Josh and I spend most of our time working with boards of directors, a Syngenta group, helping them put together the long-term vision and ultimately selling that vision into the membership so that they will support the initiatives to do the things that are necessary to satisfy existing members to use the club more often and attract new members. So it's an area of paramount importance to tackle this subject. We invited Mike Jenkins, who is Executive Vice President of Landscapes Unlimited, to be here. Is probably your company's known for a lot of things. They actually own and operate 40 golf courses, but they are probably the leading golf course renovation company in the world. Mark Dietrich from an international golf course architecture company, and Bill Davidson, who has managed a number of renovations from Naples. So it's my great opportunity, because this is the last time you get to see me, to say thank you all for being here and kind of turn things over to my very capable partner to moderate this important session on how to budget and fund clubhouse and golf course improvements. Josh Lemaster.
So this is a financial section, and you're getting financial credit. But I promise that we're not going to put a bunch of spreadsheets on the screen and start talking about capital budgets. But let me, before we get going, let me highlight a couple of more things with the fellows that you see in front of you. Mike Jenkins with Landscapes has been involved in about 50 development and construction projects of golf facilities. He has forgotten more than I'll ever know about golf course development. So, and in addition to being a certified golf course superintendent, Bill Davidson is also president of the Florida chapter of Golf Course Superintendents Association. So he's involved in a number of statewide issues, including water issues, chemical issues, and representing his peers at the state level. And Mark with Bo Diedrich out of Atlanta, they're involved in they're the ones that in addition to Syngenta Group, the clubs would call to help them through a strategic planning process related to their facilities. And he does work all over the world. So what we're going to do this today is I'm going to pose a few questions, and if there's anything that comes, as we get to the topic, if it's something that strikes you, resonates with you, so we'll do questions. In the meantime, I'll save some time at the end that we can open up the floor. But we have a few case studies. As you know, in financial projects, funding projects, there's nothing better than thinking about real life case studies. So we've got a few, and we've got where we're using actual clubs and actual numbers. We've of course got the permission from those clubs to use those numbers. So with that said, Bill, there's a big part of any project, any funding of any project is going to need membership support. So as you're getting projects off the ground, whether it's a smaller repair project or a large or major scale renovation like you went through it in Naples in 2009, so how do you get your membership involved? And I know at some point, real quick here, you've got a little thing that we'll show too.
Well, I think it's about your public relations campaign and your ability to communicate with your club on a level in which they'll understand. We did a massive golf course renovation to a 50-year-old golf course in 2009, and it was right at the heart of the economic downturn. Like I said, we lost 100 members in about 45 days. So for us, it was all about trying to get membership buy-in, and I think it's a challenge that we all have an issue with. But the way that we did it was through a lot of educational experiences, bringing in outside experts to help us build our case, consultants and things of that nature. But it was also trying to educate the membership as to where we were in our market set. In Naples, we're a facility that hadn't invested in itself in 20 years and competing in the market against a rapidly expanding golf area where they were building 20, 25 golf courses a year. So our market set was trying to compete with the old or to renovate against so that we would have a market, an item to compete in the marketplace against the new. And every other club in town had already regrassed and rebuilt and built clubhouses, and we were still trying to hand out just our name with old and weathered offerings. So we weren't able to compete anymore. So we drilled into our market data and our point of sale data to show that our attrition rate had rapidly exceeded our intake. And through some of those market analysis within our own internal, we were able to show everybody we need to do something. And therefore we were able to develop a plan from the ground up instead of a plan that was pushed down from the top from a very select bunch of people that sat there and said, I think this is what we should do. We got the confidence to say from the bottom up, this is what we'd like to do.
So I can't let time go by here without showing, I'm going to let you kind of describe what I'm about, the video I'm about to show. So it looks like you have done a tremendous job of kind of engaging with your membership. So can you cue this up before we
Sure.
before we play?
Part of what I do at my facility is outwardly communicate on a basis to which I want the membership to have the answers before they get asked a question in the clubhouse. So I started a blog in 2009 to communicate to the membership what we're doing during the time of renovation. We shut down in the summer when everybody leaves. We come back up here, and the question came, well, how are we going to let everybody know what we're doing? So at the time, I had a friend who's a professional blogger, and she showed me a few easy tips and tricks to post these things online. And so I've kind of used it as a tool at my facility to educate the membership. And this video is just a small tool that I do at my club to get member buy-in for the little projects that we do. Now, the cool thing about this is I did it all on my iPhone. It was all free. Everything that I do is free. I use Google Docs. I use Blogger for my web blog. And it's a great tool to get membership excited about the things that you do. And it's all free. So at my club, we affectionately call summer verification season the 100-day war. And I've used applications like this to build momentum going into projects so that everybody understands what's coming up. And they kind of have bought into it before it actually happens. And therefore, we've really cut the rumor mill off of the knees. We built the momentum moving forward so that any adverse public relations gets out or people are complaining. The groundswell from the mass of the members is, it's really a good thing. It's something that we need to do. And the members really have regulated themselves. I don't really get complaints from memberships, and it's a great thing for me when I walk into the clubhouse and Mrs. Jones says, why are we doing this? And then Mark says, really posted on the blog how much you read it. You know, so they use it as a means to educate themselves, and that's where they go and they look for the answers to the questions before they read the name.
Who thinks your members would get a kick out of something like this at your club? So, Mike, I want to jump into a little bit more heavy lifting on the planning process. And I think you've got an example of a project, and I think you actually pulled this out of your experience on the board of a private club as opposed to operating a portfolio of clubs. But why don't you jump in and show how that project moved along, how you used it as a funding tool? Okay. And you were right about being forgetful. My wife reminds me of that every day.
Yeah, I served on the board of a club that I belonged to back home. And I actually served a 4-year stint and then one more as president. And I'm the first to recognize the challenge you gentlemen and ladies have in terms of managing the board, because it can really be crazy sometimes. But in our club, we had essentially the club was over 100 years old. The building itself was had been added onto many times, probably about 75 years old, 80 years old. And we had a couple of issues that I really felt we needed to deal with. One was the aging demographics of our membership. Our average member was well over 60, probably closer to 70. And the other thing was we had some physical assets that hadn't been that were always put on the back burner. And one of those was the swimming pool, which was over 50 years old and had leaks and was too small and all those kind of things. The other was the irrigation system, which was a hydraulic system. For those of you that know what that means, old technology, old pipes, and but the project always got deferred because there were so many other things that the members would more readily notice that always took priority. And so the reason I'm getting there is I like to call this case study the how a swimming pool funded an irrigation system. But what we did, and the main points are up here on the wall. But we pioneered an initiative, and a lot of it was as you guys all know, it took a lot of education and planning and explaining to people why it would be prudent to update the pool. And the initial reaction of a lot of members, especially the older members, was, well, we don't use the pool. We've got a pool. Why would we need a new one? Those kinds of things. And so we really had to explain to people and show them trends, and I think we'll get into some societal trends that impact private clubs. But we weren't appealing to the younger generation, mom and the kids, and the people that wanted to join the club for more reasons than just the great golf course. And so ultimately, what we did is we worked quite a while on a master plan for the pool, and we also called it much more than just a pool project. We called it a combination pool outdoor living project. And so that the scope of the project was more than just a new swimming pool. It involved renovating the bathhouses and the snack bar, but also outdoor space for dining and with fire pit and things like, I always say people spend more money on their back porch or their back deck than they do inside their house sometimes. So we really tried to put together a project that was appealing to everybody, not just the young families. But even with all that and a lot of sailing, it still only passed. It was going to involve an assessment, and the project was nearly $3 million. And so we assessed our members, or we put forward for a vote a $4,800 assessment per member. And obviously that was a bit of an obstacle for some. So the project only passed 55% to 45%. So those of you that have done these kinds of things, you really hate to be proposing a project that only half of your members are endorsing. But ultimately, we got it passed, and we gave people two options. And people always ask me, we've got all these projects, but we don't know how to fund them. What's the magic bullet? And there isn't one. it's long-range planning and it's thinking strategically. And so what we did is we gave people two choices. They could either pay a lump sum assessment or they could pay it over installments. And installments were appealing to younger members, and they're also appealing to maybe some of the older members who didn't think they'd last. They'd be around to enjoy the project for another 10 years. So we got it done, and we started with about 540 members, and we typically would lose 5% of our membership a year through, I call them the 3 M's. It's mortality, morbidity, and moving away. And because of the age of our membership, we always lose 25 or so members. But as best we can tell, we lost about 20 or 25 more members as a result of this assessment, this project. But over the next 5 years, we added, I think I've got it up there, 233 new members. And the neat thing about it was, I guess it's not surprising, is 2/3 of those were socials. And so I think we've got a picture of before and after. And the picture on the left is obviously before, but you can see the old snack bar. It was a screened-in porch, the old pool. And again, many of our members thought what we had was fine. And then when we did get the project passed, a lot of them, there was a group of them fought to scale back the project. Well, we don't need to reface these buildings. We don't need to have an air-conditioned snack bar or restrooms and so forth. But ultimately, the thing on the right is what we got built, and you can see there's a big focus on kind of more of a resort feel, space that was fun for everybody, and you know, we have harsh winters and hot summers, but it's amazing how much these outdoor spaces get used by all the members. And we also were able to, within the scope of the project, get the snack bar pool buildings. They look like cinder block, flat roofed Quonset huts. We got them to be refaced and have the same pillars and roofing that matched the main clubhouse. It looked like it had been there forever. So at the end of the day, the current situation is even after attrition, we have about 150 more members than we did before this project was done. We can't see that very well. Our average age, I think it's dropped by nearly somewhere between 12 and 13 or 14 years, because most of these new members have been younger. There's I don't have the statistics, but the usage of the club, it's not just dues and initiation fees, but the usage, the patronage, the food and beverage department, everything has gone up as a result of this project. And then we had some unexpected outcomes. We were pretty lucky in terms of timing. When we originally proposed the assessment, prime rate was 6% or 5.5%. And so we did the math on the installment, and we essentially built in about a 9% interest factor for those that elected to pay the assessment on an installment basis. And we got a loan from our local bank. We actually put out an RFP to 5 banks, all of which had members of the club. We got a loan that was half under prime. So during the whole time of this project, ever since we did this, prime has been 3.25%. So we're borrowing at 2.75%. So we've got an arbitrage factor in the assessment flow. And as a result of that, you know, the combination of having so many more members, because new members, if you leave the club, then you're relieved of the assessment. But if you join the club, the deal was the new members had to pay the assessment. They either pay a lump sum based on how many years were left, or start the $50 a month based on how many more years there are till this assessment ends. So the combination of all these new members paying initiation fees, dues, and the assessment, and on top of that, we had the interest rate benefit, and our bank loan had a borrowing base calculation that was, they underwrote the loan based on the income stream from the assessments. So we had the borrowing base that every year we had to pay at least this much. And as a result of those unexpected factors, we were able to build a war chest for other projects. And Josh, you just slip one more slide that we did a new irrigation system. We finally got that irrigation system that we've been put off for 20 years onto the books, and We spent $1.5 million on a new irrigation system and updating our driving range into a creating targets and short game center and so forth. So, point of all this is number one is you got to be forward thinking in terms of what will really move the needle in terms of how our club's going to be successful in the future. And then the second part of it then is how to sell the membership and how do you get funded and finance. So you can see a little plug for our company did the irrigation system. And, you can see the before and after. It's so much better after a new irrigation system. But we had the old double row irrigation system and big spray cannons that would only hit certain areas or overwater other areas, and just having a more modern technology on the irrigation systems made a huge difference to our course conditions and also our cost of maintaining them.
I can add something. Mike's case study here really is a great illustrator of a lot of, probably 3/4 of our clients nowadays are contacting us because they're looking at means of attracting families, and you're, I'm sure, facing much of the same in most of your cases. And his club, like many others, was able to take advantage of a real opportunity. And that opportunity is you're really limited. If you're fortunate enough to have a full golf membership, you're sort of capped off at that. Unless you're a national club with people coming in and out of town, but you're capped off at the number of members you can have per golf course, for example. But when it comes to social memberships, that's your real opportunity for growth. It's not only your opportunity for longevity in the future, it's a real opportunity for you for growth, which is really an opportunity from a financial standpoint. Because as you all know, you're in the dues business. We're figuring out a way to increase your dues to pay for your capital improvement projects, just like this irrigation project. So I've got a case study that I'm referring to for some other little financial things, but I had a very similar circumstance. It was a Woodland Country Club in Carmel, Indiana, a suburb of Indianapolis, where when we started this planning process with them, they had 83 social members. We've done a couple of phases of things, and the biggest thing was to go and build a new pool building for them that had fitness in it. The result of that was that just in about 12 months, they added 50 new members. I'm not aware of them even losing any, in fact, out of the ordinary. So that was never, but they added 50 new members who had to pay initiation fees and dues, and essentially it's almost paying for the building. The building wasn't that expensive to begin with. So there are a lot of ways that you can help financially illustrate this to your board and to your membership to really sell it. And part of this is being able to draw from case studies, from experience of some of your peers or from professionals like us who can help point out some other case studies.
Mike, you mentioned a bit ago that when you got in that project, I know it was a rough year when you started that pool project, 2008. Not well known for a great year in the club business. You mentioned the project was scaled back. So maybe all three of you, Mike, you can kick off. But, just talk about ways that this group can help their boards of directors and their membership as a whole get to the right scale of the right size projects for what they need to accomplish. Now, I'll offer my thinking, and I know you guys will build on this, but to me, it's a visionary, longer-term approach. I mean, we talked earlier about the club having a business plan for the coming year, and we see so many clubs, my club included, that all we did every year is we had a capital improvement plan for the next year. And as you guys know, with ever-changing board of directors and leadership club, it can be night and day from one year to the next. And so I'm a big believer in kind of more of a master planning type long-term approach, where you still need to have an annual business plan, but you need to have a long-term master planning process where you are looking at everything in the club, whether it's the bunkers, the irrigation system, the swimming pool, the family grill, and basically get all those things on a piece of paper and start thinking what does the club need to be in the future? What the next generation of members, 5, 10 years from now, what
should the club become for them? And I think many clubs have been guilty, clubs that aren't around anymore were guilty of not, first of all, not wanting to change, and then secondly, not knowing how to evolve. And, you know, you guys are all familiar with the changing family lifestyles and societal trends and so forth. And so my point is just getting a wish list, and then having a planning committee that's starting to prioritize those things, put them out there in the future, and then it comes around to, okay, how do we educate the members that these things are needed, and then how do we create a game plan to get there, whether it's a membership recruitment plan or whether it's creative financing or whatever it might be. But you actually have to start thinking several years ahead, unless you're one of those few clubs that can just pull the trigger tomorrow.
Bill, do you have any thoughts on getting the board and the membership to the right scope of project, right scale?
I think the staff members have to be a little bit like Steve Jobs in this regard. And you know, Steve Jobs said that if I would have gone on the market research and these sort of things, we would have never gotten an iPod. Because I gave them what I thought everybody wanted. This was my vision. This is what I thought would be a success. And when we did our project, we listened to the membership, but fortunately, the membership was more willing to listen to their professional. As a collective, we came together and said, these are the things that we really think that you guys need in order to make this club somewhat successful. You need to renovate the golf course because we have very limited offerings comparatively to other people. And we did those sort of things, and then we brought the data with us to the board to prove them that we were right. We didn't necessarily go to them and say, would you like to redo the public road? What part of our renovation would you like to do? This is what you need in order to be competitive. But I think what you stated was exactly right. You need to know who you are, and you need to know your clientele, and you need to know what your market set is. You have to have that vision to move forward, and then you got to be able to sell it.
Mark, how about you?
Well, it's a little bit of restating what both Bill and Mike said. I think you really have to think long term, and then think of what your ideal would be in 5 or 10 years down the road, and then plan for that financially, with sound financial data to get to that point. And so it's really important, rather than to just go and say, all right, putting Band-Aids on something every year, or fixing up, remodeling this room this year, or something like that. It usually turns into different board members' pet projects, and it really isn't thinking long term. So the important thing is to reach out to someone who can help to guide you through this process. And I do think that the beginning of this is you do have to get member input in order to do this. There are some schools of thought that people say, well, I don't really want to ask the members, because if we can't deliver what they want, then it's going to look like a failed effort. But if you ask the questions the right way, meaning using someone who knows what they're doing as far as doing a survey or focus group, you can help sort of guide them through this process with the idea of listening to your members and then sort of telling them, or summarizing and restating what they've said or what they asked for. It helps you when you come to, after you've done a long range plan with your house committee, it helps you to prioritize what phase 1 is and what phase 2 is and what phase 3 is. So I think that that's part of the being able to help gauge what size projects you can do financially, is to allow the members to prioritize that.
And the other thing is, not only does the survey or the focus group give the members an opportunity to tell you what they want, but it can also be used to sell a project down the road, because you can say, this is what you told us in your responses to our survey. This is what you said was on that road.
So we've got let's kind of assume at this point we've got a project, the right scope. Everybody's convinced we need to move forward. So we've got to deal with the present question: how do we pay for it? So I don't let any of you jump in on funding mechanisms, creative funding, What things are you seeing? I could jump in with a few, especially let's say since the beginning of 2009. I think the funding and finance environment has changed. So, if you have any perspective there?
I've got a couple of interesting projects where clients, I found it to be quite creative, and I've heard rumors to the effect of some others that have done it, but don't know the details. But one of my clients is Kinloch Golf Club, which is outside of Richmond, Virginia, and we've designed for them a company. It's about half their membership is a national membership, half of their membership is a resident membership. The national membership is typically drive to anyway. There are people coming from DC, Philadelphia, and areas like that. But they have a need because their cottage was always booked. And so we designed a couple of 8-bedroom cottages. They built a couple of years apart. When they were doing this, they started building the first one in 2008. Probably pretty bad timing, obviously. But what they ended up doing was they had some of these national members who were financially sound in and of themselves, really wanted to have this ability to have a cottage like the cottage that you might see at Pine Valley or something like that. In fact, that's part of our research was going around looking at some of the great golf cottages around the East Coast. And they wanted this badly enough that they were very supportive of a manager who was a very good leader. And what they ended up doing was they borrowed money from a small group of members who were willing to loan money to build a project where they couldn't just go out and get the money from the bank. So they borrowed something in the neighborhood of $850,000 to $1 million to build a cottage. When they finished the cottage, the club purchased it back, paid the members back with interest, and that was that. So that was a creative way of funding the project. The project has been very successful such that they built another one, and they've significantly increased their room during season. Completely booked. But that's one example. I have another client, Point of Woods, up in Benton Harbor, Michigan, that similar type of situation. They have a lot of members who work for executives at Walt Corporation, which is headquartered there. They were able to, as part of their program, where we ended up, and it's a different slide that I have, but we ended up building a new clubhouse, a smaller clubhouse, and the financials was great. Part of what they did was they sold some sort of stock share to a small group of members who, again, had a vested interest in a nice clubhouse. And they were able to borrow from them when they couldn't get money from the bank. And they do that. Both of those projects were completed within, since 2009.
Some of you may remember if you were here, I think a year ago to this day, we had Tulsa Country Club was here, and we were talking about their funding mechanisms, and they actually asked for the money. Just a straight fundraising. They were asking for contributions to the club, raised $1.8 million, and then they did a member bond program, a really structured member bond program, run through a trust, and raised $3.1 million. That was a club that had almost eliminated their initiation. So I think the point here is to be creative.
I've got one more other one. It's really totally other end of the spectrum. This was a project that was done by my previous firm, Princess Anne Club in Virginia Beach. And one of their creative means of doing some of their financing for the project was to reduce the food and beverage as part of this renovation project. Basically crediting back the members about $50 a month in theory. But, when you're going and building a new clubhouse with a brand new food and beverage outlet, you can't get them to spend their money when you're doing it for it. So that was one way that they were able to, without having to actually assess the members, to go ahead and do it. The friend of mine who was at the time the GM there, he called it the two steaks a month. That was another creative idea.
We'll stick to the financial topics, but just because of the experience and expertise that you have, maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the trends, the hot topics, what's on the golf course, in the clubhouse, around the clubhouse, Mark, you want to start?
Do you want to, I have sort of a slide that might be a good reference.
All right, well, get
Not
through
sure
there.
where you plugged it in. but up there.
There we go.
So here's some trends that we see in some of the clubhouse design. And one real point of this, and I can read off to you in case you read al fresco dining, which is outdoor dining. I found that even in cold weather climates, and even in the hottest climates, it's still popular nowadays. Adding fire pits and outdoor fireplaces for gathering. Creative use of some of the private dining rooms in your club. You got a room that, for example, doesn't have any windows in it, turning it into a wine cellar. Inside-outside bars, what we call a cocktail green, which might be something that you just turn one of your practice greens into in the evening, which is be able to have a bar conveniently located where people are going out there, or kids going out there even in their barefoot before they go to dinner and being able to putt around and high energy. And in some cases, especially some of the in-town clubs, being able to have a business center, a clubhouse, a place where you can go and have a meeting before or after your golf round, or a place where you can go talk on your phone without disturbing people, or even retrieving, printing something off. One of the things that that this brings up that I'd like to point out is that a lot of these things don't cost a lot of money. So I think that when you're thinking about some of your capital improvement plans, it's always a good idea to have some of these lower cost trends in there. If in the event you're finding that you're having a real struggle as a GM with being able to get a large capital improvement program planned, it's always good to have some low-hanging fruit there that you can plan on having that's going to really help to move your club forward, give the members the idea of how you're going to move forward, and give them something to buy into, that so that if they haven't bought into it already, they'll be able to approve a larger capital improvement plan down the road. So again, just try and plan for success. So some of these trends are a good idea for that. I think there's another slide too that has some golf cottages, again, is a trend. Juice bars, oftentimes a lot of part of the fitness club. Having a chef's table and cooking classes, again, this is really just an idea about if you're putting in a new kitchen, think about the space. But how many people here know what the chef's table concept is? Anybody? By show of hands. Personal training, huge if you're putting in a fitness facility. Resort style pools, and then lastly sustainability, which we're all familiar with. Those are just a few that I have.
Before Mike builds up on it, let's think about, you need an HVAC system. You need a new roof. We have to deal with repair and maintenance issues. You're combining them with a project with these things that are really going to rotate the membership. This is going to make all the difference in the world. Bill, Mike, anything on Fred?
No, one of the things that we've seen at the clubs in South Florida was a declining initiation fee, which is leading to lower capital dues and capital funds. And so what you're seeing a lot of countries down there is, instead of doing massive maintenance projects, $1 million air conditioning systems, they're trending for doing massive renovation projects, wrapping it all into one giant project, wherein you can do creative financing or get bank loans, which is then entail scaling out your capital fund for the rest of the building, whether it's for ovens or golf course maintenance equipment, and something to do on the golf course. So we're seeing a lot of that in my opinion.
That's on the trend side. Obviously, those are the new things you can put in at your club, but I think it's important. McMahon Company that I know most of you know of, I've seen a presentation that they do, and they list 5 or 6 societal trends that are really impacting the club business, golf in general. But and you all know what those are. But obviously, the woman being more of the decision maker, the time constraints, technology, health and wellness. I think a lot of the things I've seen where people rank, golf gets ranked really low, and health and wellness and those kinds of activities get ranked really high, especially in employment. So I think it's important to make sure or ask yourself, have the board and you folks educate your board that are we addressing these issues with the way we, not only the way we have operate the club, but also with our capital planning and our projects that we're bringing on board. And then I think the other thing is that you're not just competing with the other country club 5 miles away, you're competing with everything else these people have in their lives, especially those with young kids, where they have so many things pulling at them from other directions, or I think people are eating out at restaurants more than ever in our country's history. So why aren't they coming to the club? Well, they're going to a lot of other places in town. So I think it's important. I know you're all very attuned to this, but you need to make sure your board members understand these issues. They're not just thinking, well, we're a golf. You know, it's all about the great golf course, because that's not where really ranking very high with many families anymore.
On that note, let's talk about the golf course. Bill, trends that, I know you did a major renovation in 2009, but what kind of things are you seeing? We talked about a lot earlier, traps and all the other things going on. What do you see as hot topics on renovation of golf?
Well, you're looking at where your dollars are being allocated. And we talked earlier about, in today's modern design, actually mowing the golf course and running an engine to do something is only going to account for 33 to 45% of your labor dollars. It's all of the things that the guys are doing while walking around, weed eating, mowing, hand mowing, and doing all these other things off of the machines that are costing you guys so much money to operate the facility. So the things that I'm seeing is there was a big trend in the late 90s or early 2000s to go to the native. Let's all go native, and then the realization came that going native is really expensive. That's all hand labor. And so I think you're starting to see more of the pendulum swing back to the middle, where you're reducing turf, you're concentrating on having really good turf, you're reducing your high maintenance areas like your bunkers. I don't think you'll see a whole lot of this on the streets anymore. Those sort of massive sinks for labor dollars are going by the wayside. If I'd like to be able to, you've built more golf courses than I do, so
I think we're seeing a lot of, guys probably tell you this better, but a lot of the projects that are coming forth now have been put off for years, and now the economy has improved. Clubs that have figured it out are doing better, and so the big things that we're seeing on golf course renovations are updating irrigation systems. Bunkers are big, either taking bunkers out of play, but also those bunkers that are strategic, improving those bunkers so that they will withstand storm events. And there's a lot of new technology on bunker construction that theoretically, after the capital outlay is done, it theoretically will lower labor costs for weeks and months and years to come in the future. So those are the big ones. And then I think it was mentioned earlier, grassing project, regrassing, getting a more modern strains of grass to withstand disease and are more drought tolerant. Grassing, bunkers, irrigation.
yeah.
Mark, when you get into these projects, especially with the comprehensive project, it involves the golf course, clubhouse, maybe clubhouse amenities outside. It can be quite large. Budgets can be huge. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how you help the GMs and the boards and the membership get through that budget process. How you can hopefully nail that down.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, you can go to my first one, which is the plan. Well, one of the things that we feel that we bring to the table is the fact that we do this on an everyday basis. We have a lot to draw from, and So what we are able to do is, as part of our planning process, when we develop our plans, in this case, you can see a color-coded floor plan. The color coding indicates different categories of renovation or addition. Like down here, for example, the bottom right orange is new conditioned members area, whereas just to the left of that is a lighter blue, minor redecoration. And there's a wide range of things in between, and we look at front of house spaces and back of house spaces. And what we do is we use that as a tool to then create, as a budgeting process. Could you flip to the next slide? A spreadsheet, and you can see the association between the one column, which is the name of the room, another one is the area of the room, the color coding of that room, and then we apply a cost per square foot, which again is based on our recent findings of the clubs that we worked on, or that we know others have worked on. And so it allows us to, and there's an FF&E number too for each of those rooms. So what we found is that by using this budget forecasting, it's not a cost estimate. It's not what a contractor does, but it does allow us, with some contingency, we always build in about a 10 or 15% contingency. It allows us in an early stage to start the budget, to create a budget that the club can work with. So that would be, that's how us, as even though I'm an architect, I'm a designer, this is how we're able to use our tools for design and combine them with our experience in doing club work to be able to help in our planning process, our strategic planning process, to create budgets for clubs. And I don't think we need to go to the next one.
Okay, Mike, I know landscapes has its own portfolio of courses that you operate, and you're involved in obviously the bigger projects moving forward. I don't want to paint it as a negative, but sometimes maybe a club is concerned about biting off more than they can chew. Maybe there's a tendency amongst the board and the membership that things are fine the way they are. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the process that you go through. If there is concern, how do you evaluate what pieces of the project move through now versus what pieces you may show on a longer term plan?
I think the best way to deal with that is to again, start with that master plan. And if you don't have the funding, or if you're worried about going too much at risk, prioritize the elements of the master plan and bite them off as you either can afford them or as you feel comfortable. And you've probably seen that with clubhouse projects, where ultimately they might have 1, 2, or 3 phases, and they'll go ahead and do phase 1, but knowing that strategically they've planned phase 1 to be consistent with phase 2 and 3, and even though it might cost more over the long run to spread same thing with golf courses, to spread it out over multiple years, at least maybe a less risky build it versus build it and they will come. At least you can prioritize the return ROI calculation and try to prioritize what low-hanging fruit can we do first to start the needle moving towards more membership or more usage, whatever it might be. I've heard statistics of clubs that have converted formal areas that weren't being used into more active grill, drop-in type spaces. I've heard statistics of clubs improving food and beverage volume by 25–30%, maybe sometimes even more. But it's still, unless you're, I think if you can't get majority of your members to vote to assess themselves, then you may need to do things in phases.
The next slide that I had actually, sorry, one more, illustrates that. The fact that this particular case, which was Woodland Country Club again, one of the nice things was that the club was financially sound enough that to do the first phase, they didn't have to assess the members anything. It was such a roaring success that a year later, when they went to do the second phase, and they did need to assess the members a little bit, they voted in favor 93%. So you can prove yourself. always like to point out when someone's like, I really wish we could do this all at once, et cetera, et cetera. There's really nothing wrong with having multiple grand openings. It's always a good opportunity for PR and for inviting them out. So that it's not necessarily a bad thing.
On the flip side is, and like your opinion, is we oftentimes see golf course renovation projects where they, somebody on board says, well, we don't want to have the golf course closed for 90 days or 60 days. Let's do it. Let's do 6 holes at a time and do it over a 3-year period. Well, ultimately, in the long run, that costs you more. And I'm sure there's also some issues about materials may not be consistent or things of that nature.
You run into a lot of issues with regard to playability. Everybody talks about wanting to have consistent green speeds. They want all the bunkers to play the same. They want all the fairways to be the same firmness and everything to be equal. And when you do a phased golf course renovation, you run into the complete opposite. Brand new greens are rock hard, and greens are soft. The only situation in which I think it's almost acceptable to do a phased project is irrigation systems. Because typically you can phase those in over periods of time and not interrupt the overall playability. But when it comes to greens construction or things of that nature, where it can create a competitive edge to one side or the other, it's very difficult to do phased golf course renovations. And typically it's so intrusive. Unfortunately for us, we have the off season down there when everybody comes up that we can go ahead and go under the knife and then everybody comes back. And it's pretty much even over. But golf course renovations on a phase plan is very, very difficult.
But even in this part of the country, you can, doing regrassing or doing some bunker work, you can schedule it to be done to start in August and still benefit from the fall growing season. And then depending on the scope of the project, you're only out of service for 60, 90 days. And it's at the end of the year anyway when kids are back in school, everybody's on vacation. They're starting to think about football and winter things. So is it better to close several times over the course of a couple of years? Or is it better just to do it once and cut out that cancer and be done with it? So,
I want to bring up one more situation, and we'll open up hopefully some questions. This one I'll throw kind of in Mark's direction, but I'd open up to anybody here with in the last 5 years with a focus on family, fun, fitness, females, heard all kinds of terms. Directing resources towards a significant project. Has anybody heard of one that was built bigger in scope? So a big banquet facility or a big pool area or a big fitness area. Does anybody know of one that was too much in scope that the board regretted, and how was it handled? Mark,
I can't think of any specific space like fitness where they didn't build enough fitness. It's usually then that they realize they needed to build more. But a lot of our clients, I think, are very cost conscious, and so we don't tend to overdo things. But I would say that one of the things that we run into, or what I mentioned before, was the pet project idea, and some of the times that in order to get something passed, you have to appease a specific group of your membership. And sometimes the project that they really want is something that isn't really that useful for the overall part of the public.
A few years ago, we had a large indoor pool in our club, and it hadn't been renovated in 80 years. And about 20% of the membership used the pool, but physically it just was so tired. And we put it out to the membership, hey, we want to fix the pool, it's going to cost $1.5 million. And the reception was very lukewarm. And then, most members said, what we really want is the bar. So we put all of our efforts into saying, okay, we're going to fix the bar. We're going to spend like $1.5 million on it. Oh, and by the way, at the same time, it's cheaper if we do the pool at the same time. So
the focus was the pool, but it ended up taking the back seat. But we did the bar because that was the only way to get the votes to get past the membership.
And which was it effective in bringing in new members?
Oh, absolutely. No, I meant direct microclouds. I think it was the first time. Yeah.
What do you think it's more because of the pool or more because of the bar?
The combination of the two brought in more families. It was basically it was just a tired old pool, and it actually turned into an athletic facility. It was an added athletic facility. We added a tri-group program, we hired a triathlete coach, and it's really changed. But the bar business went on.
Okay, question in the back?
I've just got a comment on Boyd. I went over during the renovation to work with Boyd, but the lounge should have been bigger. It could have been twice or 3 times as big as they renovated it.
I would agree. The things where we sometimes run into shortfall, either has to do with the fitness that you don't anticipate demand, or the size of the bar, or the amount of outdoor dining. Because if you started with very little and you add, you think, oh, we'll just add a little dining portion, and suddenly that's where everybody wants to eat. Then you start having to think about how you're going to create more covered outdoor dining.
Good problem to have, I guess. So, open up, any questions? I'll put the mugshots up there. Any questions? Financial, development, budgeting, funding?
Better than I can, but in terms of creative financing over under building, we had a club that we worked with, and actually we own the club. But part of the reason you do capital improvement sometimes is because you're lacking membership or you're looking for more members. Part of the reason you can't get funding sometimes is because you don't have enough members, you don't have enough revenue. And so we may have been working together too much. We used this line a minute ago, but in this case, we took the "if we build it, they will come" model and kind of turned it on its head and said, if you come, we'll build it. And this very much aligns with having a long-term vision. But part of the deal was expanding the clubhouse, expanding the pool, and we made a very clear pitch and vision of what we would like to do with the club, and it energized the membership to go out and we had a membership person working for us, but members were bringing in members. And at the end of the day, I think that club has 800 members now, and everything's too small. Bar's too small, pool's too small, but that generated the revenue and the capital we needed to do the project, rather than digging in our pocket or assessing someone. So just another way to think about it. Sometimes you can have a great concept, but that still doesn't drive money. Things still not going into you. No one's going to open their pocket. You've got to grow your business sometimes to grow your business.
Josh?
Let me add something to what John just said. In our business, I almost say this is more of an art than it is just an activity, and that is we have learned from our experience working with clubs that the focus of a lot of this activity is not only to increase the usage of the club by the current members, but not just add more members, but add a future generation of members, and trying to get the children of current members to want to step up and be members, really becomes an art. And the point that we see in some of the clubs that we work with is that the boards really don't understand this, and their first line of defense is, well, get rid of the initiation fee, do 2-for-1s, let's go out and get everybody we can and create tonnage. Most of you come from clubs that are well-to-do and understand the culture there. What we try to do with the clubs that we work with is to understand you just don't want to add numbers. You want to add the right people that are going to come in, enjoy your club, fit into the culture that you've created, and resonate with the amenities, many of which Mark has put up on the screen, that are going to appeal to a younger generation. So the lesson for us has been, don't just look at for numbers. It's how do we go about attracting the right types of members that are going to become long-term members that are going to contribute to the value of our club, not scare away some of the older members, and ultimately make this club, long-term sustainable. So there's an art there. The clubs we work with, we want them to, the moment they're considering a program like this, we want the initiation fees to go up. The moment they start digging in the ground, we want the initiation fees to go up again. When they finish it, initiation fees to go up again. We want to create a sense of excitement about what's happening so that we can, in fact, discern and bring in the right members that are going to fit into the particular culture of that club. And that was the point that I thought we really needed to add to the program we have.
We have a few more minutes. Another question?
I just want to make one comment that it's a little ironic that we're at Walt because this club, the reason why we're here is because of the popularity of this event last year. And you came to the good old country club where golf was definitely king, and that's okay. It's part of our mission, but we couldn't support the numbers in the clubhouse. So we're going through this capital planning presentation right now, but Wellesley, actually, I wish that Marty were in the room, but he would tell you exactly what, if you all could have seen what this club was like campus-wide before they knocked down the old clubhouse and rebuilt this one that we're sitting in. He's pretty much, this is the only local club, I think, that can hold 200 people in one room. And last time we spoke to Marty about this, he actually was bragging that for the first time ever, food and beverage turned a profit downstairs because they built the right bar, they built the right ballroom, and they were able to then fund other capital projects that are falling into place. I think they did a 19-hole expansion over by the pool, and so they're growing everywhere, and they're touching all of the F words that you were referring to earlier, and building across the street a brand new grounds facility. So I don't represent Wellesley Country Club, but I felt like it was important to mention it because here we are at probably locally one of the best case studies for us to look at on a local level.
I can tell you that we've seen numbers, just silly numbers, on the financial results, the revenue improvements, the club utilization after these renovation projects. Yeah, wait lists are always good. I think there's been a changing, I'm not sure the right term, dichotomy or whatever the term is, but it seems traditionally at clubs they valued the history, and we should celebrate the history and traditions of our clubs, but it was almost a resistance to change among the leaderships and boards and members. I think today's younger people think of the change that's happening in their short lives. Change is happening so quickly, and I think we forget that in the club business, that even though you've done a successful project and it's moved the needle, you need to be thinking about, okay, what should we be doing next to continue to get better and better and meet our members' expectations, our future members' expectations, and then retain the members that we have, because if we're not doing it, the club down the street is probably doing it. So, would you agree? That's what sounds what they're doing here. The other point I wanted to, you asked about clubs that have done a project that didn't work, or and I think it's not so much that they don't work, I think they built the wrong thing. And I'm interested in Mark's, you don't just, I mean, let's say that this club had a 40,000 square foot clubhouse and they build a new one, well, should it, or they renovate the old one, they really need to go through a strategic analysis of what can we really be good at, what aren't we so good at, and how do we incorporate that into our clubhouse plan. And I'm assuming you guide clients through those kinds of strategies, charrettes.
Absolutely. We use a process called SOAR, which stands for Opportunities, Aspirations, and Results. It's a strengths-based strategic planning program that I first started to learn about when we were doing a branding of our own company years ago. Going through the market, this actually might work for clubs. And so trying to build upon the strengths of the club and using that as the format for reaching out to members. And rather than saying, what is it that stinks? What is it that we do well? And what are our opportunities to improve it? And that's been the way that we go about doing it. One of the things that you mentioned about something that an example of a project that I felt was one piece of the project that, again, sort of that pet project type of thing that I don't think was all that successful, but it's fairly fresh in my mind because it was just been a little over a year since they did it, is that despite our recommendations, there was a group within the club, the old, just about every golf club has them, it's the old golfers that want to go and hang out at the men's room by themselves and play cards and things like that. As part of a renovation of almost the entire club, it was about 25 or 30,000 square feet of renovation and a little bit of addition. They were really insistent that they needed not only renovation of the grill, but they needed it expanded. And what really ended up happening was, in the process of redoing the 19th hole and redoing the restaurant, that I've been back several times because we did another phase, and that men's grill is pretty much empty because all the other, even though that thing was renovated and new, the other places are cooler to be. So, I mean, that's just one example of something that I think was driven by some outlying forces. That was sort of a project. Is a good example of what maybe not to do.
I think we have time for one or two more, and we have to get everybody out into the traffic.
I just wanted to make a comment, based on our last renovation. I think one of the biggest benefits of the whole membership was that, if you do a significant renovation, and it's a good renovation, you also renovate your membership. I had probably 5% of my members who voted against this project, that they voted against it because they couldn't afford the club as it was. And when they got voted down, they voted with their feet and they left the club, which was by far the best thing they could have done. The people who were the whiners and stuff like that, real cheapskates, they left the club, and it breathed a whole breath of fresh air throughout the club. Nobody missed it.
I like the way you put it, renovating the membership.
That's exactly what happened in my club. When that kind of downturn hit, people that were barely holding on, we were able to get rid of them, and it suffered for a little bit, but we did the renovation, we took in 45 new members, and probably by the end of this week, we'll be at a waitlist capacity. So, I completely agree with you. Sometimes forcing a renovation on property membership is a good thing to get rid of the dead rate.
Tulsa Country Club that we talked about last year, if you include their normal attrition, they had about a 16% membership loss in 1 year. And we're still working with them on membership development, and that's all come back in 5 times. Other questions, comments? With that, Dave, all yours. Thanks to the panel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for sticking around. Greatly appreciate it. I know you have busy lives, families to get to, businesses to go and run. So we appreciate you all sticking around. I want to thank Walt and the team for supporting this event 2 years in a row. We greatly appreciate it. We love this event. Hopefully we can do it again next year. Bruce, Josh, and Liz from the Signature Group. Again, it's good to do without you guys. Fantastic. Thank you so much for putting so much attention and detail into this event. What we all do for a living, we'd like to be treated that way as well. So thank you all for everything you guys do. Thanks to all of our speakers who again took time out of their busy lives, left their families, traveled long distances to come and see us. We really appreciate your time, appreciate your expertise, and I'm sure everybody got something out of every session. So thank you all very much. To our Allied Association, golf course superintendents, and PTA, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. We know we need to continue to work together. None of us can survive without each other, whether we want to or not. So let's keep doing some Allied Association type stuff and continue to communicate with those relationships. So again, thank you all for coming. We look forward to seeing the next managers at our next event. Safe travels to everyone, and have a great year, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.